Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we are going to rewick another of these aluminum block petrol lighters. Got this one sparking, and it lit a couple of times when we first filled it up, but overall that wick just doesn't seem suitable enough to sustain a flame like we need it to. So we are going to remove our fuel screw, grab our tweezers, and start pulling out wadding. And that wadding feels like it is down in there pretty tight. Most of these aluminum block lighters are not wadded real densely. Most of the time they seem like the wadding is just kind of haphazardly shoved in there. And there comes out one piece. Still got some sitting here from the last job that I did that I need to bag up and mark for that lighter. And that piece ends up tearing on us. And it feels like maybe it's just one piece left in there, so hopefully we can get a hold of it. There we go. Maybe another piece down in there. It may just be the wick. So let's see what happens when we pull this wick out. And there you can see, we can see straight down through there. So that was all that was in there, was just that little short wick, which we are going to hopefully be able to slide one of these copper woven Zippo type wicks down in there. I would like for that stiff wick to be present just because it's such a narrow snuffer area there. So let's get this twisted down as tight as we can, and then just see if we can get that to twist down into that chimney easy enough. And it got started, and looks like it's going to go down in there easy enough. So we will close the snuffer on this one to where we get the maximum amount of wick left up on the top. Now we have a length of organic cotton here that I've separated. Shouldn't be too thick to feed down in there, and hopefully take some of the wick with it as we go. Everybody's heard of you wanting to get that in an S position, which isn't necessarily possible in these straight bore aluminum block lighters. So you just want to get it mixed in with the wadding as best you can, fed down in there, and not all one length of it bunched up. I think if you are going to bunch it up, it's better to have it bunched up at the bottom, but even better to have it intermingled with the wadding and fed down in the body of the lighter or the tank that way. I think that's going to be plenty. Go ahead and tear that off. See if we end up having to pull any more of it out of there. It's a relatively long screwdriver implement that is integrated into the fuel cap. So we're going to need enough room in there for that to go all the way down. Pull a little bit more of that out. Now that we got it that far, we'll just take our scissors and cut it. And then get the rest of it packed down in there. Sometimes a poker is the best. Sometimes you need a screwdriver that's got a flatter end so that you've kind of got something to push with. And I think that's going to be far enough down in there that we can get our fuel screw screwed all the way down. Make sure before we fuel it up. No problem. I mentioned when I made the video for clearing the flint tube in this lighter that this lighter kind of reminds me of the look of some of the ST DuPonts that I've seen. A really cool, stylish looking lighter. Squirt our fluid down in here and let it absorb. Shouldn't take much. And we're probably going to end up shaking the residual amount of this fuel out, as it doesn't look like it's all going to absorb. It's got a good snuffer on it, so it doesn't feel as though it was pouring out the top, but of course as soon as I pull that out it does. So we're going to shake the rest of this out, then replace our fuel cap. And some of these lighters, it may be a little bit unfair to fuel them up and then expect them just to light right up like you want them to right here on camera while they're still dealing with the volatility of vapor lock. But some of them, that may just be a limitation of the lighter. A little canned air here. That one hadn't been opened. Blow this out a little bit, hopefully deal with any of the excess. And that can's pretty much empty now. So you can see the spark. You can see the wick is bloomed out like you would want it. It all seems to be fitting inside the snuffer okay. And that looks like sufficient enough spark. It's as tight as it'll go, so we can't tighten it any further. Just like we did the other day with that limp wick that was in it, is getting over into the file wheel. And I do believe that this will function better once the vapor lock is calmed down a little bit. But just like the Nordad lighter, even with a brand new wick in there, it looks as though this ignition area is so tight that we're just going to be dealing with vapor lock on this one no matter what we do. That maybe it wasn't the wick that was in it that was causing the problem. It was the volatility caused by such a narrow ignition area, would be my guess. But it's also possible that we let this lighter sit for an hour or two and come back to it and it lights right up like you would want it to. So that is how to replace the wick. Now, whether or not the lighter will function after you do is a whole different story. And I'm a little surprised that I'm sure I've struck it at least a couple dozen times at this point, that it hasn't caught even once. I'm sure we got fuel up here. So that is not a problem. But getting it to ignite off the shower of sparks that is provided, and like I said, in such close proximity, then it appears as though this lighter is going to need some more work. Or like I said, just to set it aside and hope that it's the vapor lock that's causing it not to light, and that once that volatility calms down, that it will. So we will save this lighter for another day at this point. Otherwise, I'm going to wear my thumb down to naked flesh and a bloody pulp just trying to strike it. So, until next time.